Hey, what is going on, everybody? It's Weather with Jonathan here, back again with another weather forecast. And in this video, we will be talking about a potential major tornado outbreak today, and a potential small tornado outbreak tomorrow. Most likely severe weather outbreak, but there is a chance for maybe a strong tornado or two tomorrow, and a severe weather outbreak possible on Monday. So let's jump straight into the forecast. So jumping straight into the forecast here, as you can see, we have very large storms going on in Oklahoma and into Texas, and this will also extend into southern Kansas. The main portions for Texas that this will include is northern Texas, specifically western Dallas. Most of the city of Dallas will be in this threat, and listen, I know you are not in the biggest threat if you live in Dallas or Fort Worth, Texas today, but today you really need to pay attention because we already have a moderate risk in effect, and this SPC has almost just a tiny bit of uncertainty holding them back from issuing a high risk, and you guys would probably end up, well, actually, you guys would maybe be in a moderate risk for that. And today is really bad, and honestly, this moderate risk could extend way further south, into like Wichita Falls and Fort Worth, Texas. So please watch out, especially in Oklahoma City, Amarillo, Texas, Woodward, Oklahoma, Topeka, Kansas, Wichita, Kansas, Kansas City, Missouri, Joplin, Missouri. You guys are all under this threat here, and as you can see here, looking on the GFS model here, it's predicting these storms kind of firing off first around 5 p.m. here in northern Texas and southern Oklahoma. And then as we head out into the later hours, as you can see, it kind of starts to die down a little bit. You can see we still have a bunch of thunderstorms going on in northeastern Texas, eastern Oklahoma, eastern Kansas, eastern Nebraska, and even all the way up there in southeastern South Dakota, and even into eastern South Dakota, southwestern Minnesota, southwestern Iowa, pretty much central and western Missouri, and central, western, and northern Arkansas. So this is going to be a large event here. And listen, it may not be the biggest event we've had, like in terms of the size, but this will be, just don't judge size. Size does not matter. Do not judge a book by its cover. Today is most likely going to be the worst severe weather outbreak we have had all year. And believe me, we have had some really bad ones, like the Greenfield, Iowa tornado. That EF4 was absolutely terrible. The Barnstall, Oklahoma tornado, that was terrible. All the other tornadoes we've had this year have been terrible, and the tornado outbreaks. Like, this year we've already had an enhanced risk, and we had like 135 tornado reports. And we also had like 4 tornado emergencies. I think it was more like 3, but it was somewhere around 2, 3, 4. Based off of what the SPC has said and what I've seen on the outlooks and on the weather models, this looks like a very bad day. And we do not have a high risk yet, but we could have a high risk. And honestly, I really wouldn't be surprised if later in the day we get a high risk based on the last model run I've seen on the HRRR. I will show you that model in just a second. But based on the last model run we saw, I really wouldn't be surprised if we got a high risk for probably about that region. Except, sorry, here, I'll just redraw that, but I wouldn't be surprised if we got a high risk for about that region there, especially for Oklahoma City. This is a big one for you. I mean, if these storms are discrete, you may not get hit, but based on what I've been seeing, you guys could get hit, and this just does not look like a good day, because if these storms are discrete, they have so much energy to work with, it's not even funny. This could potentially be worse than the December 10th tornado outbreak if these supercells can get the energy they need and be discrete. If this happens, this could be an absolutely devastating tornado outbreak, and I am not stressing this enough. This is absolutely crazy. And if you guys are not paying attention, just I'm praying for you because you gotta pay attention to this because I want all you guys to stay safe. And believe me, if these and I'm gonna say it one more time, believe me, if these storms stay discreet and have actually a decent amount of sunshine to work with, these storms are literally gonna produce several long track violent tornadoes today. Now, I only think there's about a 40% chance of that happening, but the reason I say 40 is because based on the last few model runs, they've kind of been clumped together, but now they're starting to show more discrete storms and way more things and like energy and instability in the atmosphere that will kind of mature these storms. And this is why we have a moderate risk already. And this is why we could get a high risk. So taking a look at our HRRR model, this is about 5 p.m. here right now. This is zoomed in on most of Kansas, Oklahoma, most of northern and central Texas, Arkansas, southern and central Missouri, and northern and parts of central Louisiana and western Mississippi, Tennessee, tiny portion of Kentucky and southwestern Illinois, and a little bit of southeastern Colorado and eastern New Mexico here. So as you can see here, this is about 5 p.m. You can see we have a few storms starting to pop up, and you can see these little wind marks. That means that the winds are starting to go this way towards Oklahoma City and north. These winds are going north, and this is what's going to give them dew points and instability. The wind is blowing all of this north into the area where all these storms will fire up. And you can see here, just within an hour, these storms just absolutely blow up. Like this little baby storm right here, you can see this little baby storm, kaboom, it just blows up. And this will just continue to happen here. This is about 7 p.m. here. And this is when we're starting to get these storms to become more discrete and more tornadic. And this is where I get very concerned because you can see here, this one would technically be discrete. This would also technically be discrete. And this is very discrete. Like very discrete. And so are these. I mean, this does not look good. And then you can see here, these are just these main supercells are just all discrete. And this is what's going to be bad because if they just have all that space for them to work with, I mean, you can see here, these could produce long track tornadoes. Like, I mean, long track. I mean, this storm right here popping up around 7 p.m., dude, that goes all the way into northwestern Arkansas, actually even like north central Arkansas. And that just does not look good to me. And then let's look at our average cloud cover here. So this is about when these storms are like in their main stage. You can see a few pockets of sunshine opening up behind these and in the middle of these. That's going to be very concerning for me. And that kind of helps mature them sometimes. And you can just see here, like, here, I'm going to go back about, let's see here, to about here. And you can see here, look at just how curved these storms are. When these storms are curved, that means that they're getting, like, tornadic, and they're starting to want to get tornadic and produce a tornado. So the fact that we're seeing this is pretty concerning. And then let's just look at the Cape, because we have just I haven't seen this much since like maybe August last year. But you can see here we have about 5,000 in some spots. Like around here in central Texas, we have about 5,500 at the most. So these storms have so much energy to work with, and they're just going to absolutely eat all this up. I mean, you can see here, like there's just about 4,000 joules per kilogram of Cape right out here. And then you just see this little like area where there's like practically no Cape. That's the storm eating all this energy up. And you can see that's going to kind of diminish. And that's because all these storms are just eating up that energy. You can see here it goes from about 5,000 joules per kilogram all the way down to like mostly 3,000, 2,000, maybe even 1,000 in some parts of Texas and Oklahoma. So these storms are going to absolutely just eat all of this up. And looking at our supercell composite, this shows kind of like the likelihood of strong supercells here. And you can see here, I have not seen it this high in a while. So that means that we're probably going to have some high supercells, or sorry, strong supercells. And honestly, like, this puts together all the ingredients we have, like cape and all of that stuff, and this puts it together and shows the likelihood of a strong supercell, and we're getting to about 35. So now looking at our significant tornado parameter, because I don't have the thing where it says like the maximum value, but I've heard on Weatherbell lately it has been off the charts crazy. It's been like 53. You can literally check Ryan Hall-Y'all's one of his videos, his most recent video. It literally said 53. I watched it, so you can see it on your own. But this is off the charts here. You can see we have about a 20 here in Oklahoma City. And you can just see here, these areas where we just have 0, like it looks like it has 0. That's where all these storms are just eating up this stuff. And it's going to stay to about 10 for like as long as this model run can go until like tomorrow morning. So these storms are going to have so much potential to produce a long track and violent tornado that honestly I really wouldn't be surprised if we get a high risk soon. I mean, it's not extremely likely, but it is definitely possible. I'd say there's a 60% chance we get one in the next outlook. So please stay prepared. And now let's look at the outlook. So looking at day 1 here for today, as you can see here, we have that moderate risk in effect for southeastern Kansas, a tiny portion of southwestern Missouri, northern and central Oklahoma, and honestly, I think this moderate risk here could get extended a little further south based on what I've seen. I think it could get extended to about here, and then this moderate risk would basically just stay the same. And then you can see this orange level 3 out of 5 enhanced risk for places like Wichita Falls, Texas, Fort Worth and Dallas, Woodward, Oklahoma, Kansas City, Missouri, Joplin, Missouri. You guys are all under this threat. And just because you may not be under the darkest shaded spot, like the worst area that you think is the worst area, it does not mean that you are not going to get severe weather. Like, please stay aware if you were in this orange and maybe even yellow, because we have had some storms that have just been slight risk, and they have still produced like EF2 tornadoes, and that have killed several people before. And please stay aware if you're in the enhanced risk too, because even if we get a high risk, it does not mean you guys are not going to get tornadoes. If you are in this enhanced risk, we've had an enhanced risk where we got 135 tornado reports and like 3 tornado emergencies. So please stay aware. And honestly, I think this moderate risk will get pushed about 50 miles south. And then, actually, that was a really bad high risk. I think we'll end up getting a high risk, personally, like right here, except maybe shifted a tiny bit west because that was like really bad. But personally, I think our high risk would be right there, because that is where the storms look worse to me. So I think we get a high risk in that region. And then honestly, I think they might up this area right here, around this area, to a 15 if they haven't already. Because based on what I've seen, these storms have just so much potential to produce tornadoes up there, even. But let's look at the tornado probabilities, and honestly, the 15% risk may get pushed up a tiny bit north, And if there is a high risk, I think they would probably up this to about a 30% chance with significant. But as you can see here, that 15% risk includes places like El Reno, Oklahoma, and Oklahoma City, maybe even Topeka or Wichita, Kansas. I keep getting those two mixed up, but it's one of you guys. This 10% risk will also include Joplin, Missouri, Woodward, Oklahoma, and Wichita Falls, Kansas, or Texas, sorry. And this 5% risk will include places like Fort Worth and Dallas, and Jefferson City, Missouri, and Kansas City, Missouri. So this is a pretty big tornado outlook, and like the SPC has already said, long track violent tornadoes are possible, and almost like at one point they said it was almost likely for at least one to occur. But I don't think it would be likely personally, but I think it is definitely possible we could get a few long track violent tornadoes. And as it literally says right now on the SBC, it says a few long-lived supercells capable of intense tornadoes may occur. So they're agreeing with most of the other weathermen reporting on this right now, and with me. So this looks pretty bad to me. And now let's just look at the wind outlook, because this is also pretty high. I mean, as you can see here, we have a 45% chance for southeastern Kansas. This will include places like Joplin, Missouri, and I believe Topeka, Kansas, or Wichita, Kansas. One of those two. And then this 30% risk will include Kansas City, Missouri, and Jefferson, Missouri. And then that 15% extends all the way down into Texas and just surrounds that, as you can see in this yellow. And then looking at our hail outlook, and also, sorry, I forgot to say, we do have another slight risk in southeastern Alabama and southwestern Georgia. This also goes for wind. Wind and hail are our main threats there. I mean, I do believe there is a 2% tornado risk, but it is very unlikely we get a tornado today down there. And then severe hail outlook, it looks a little more severe for parts of Oklahoma and Texas. We have a 45% risk for, I believe, Topeka or Wichita, Kansas, a 30% risk for Kansas City, Missouri, a 30% risk for Joplin, Missouri, and also all these places are under the significant risk, and Oklahoma City and Wichita Falls, Texas, and Woodward, Oklahoma, Fort Worth, Texas, and Dallas, Texas. So now let's look at tomorrow here. And tomorrow we also have a slight risk from eastern Missouri extending into central and western Kentucky and into a tiny portion of northern Tennessee. And then you can see that slight risk just completely bordering it, just all around it, extending from northeastern Texas all the way into southwestern Ohio. And now let's look at our day 3 outlook before we go, and then our fire outlook for today. So as you can see here, we have another slight risk for day 3, Monday, March 27th, 2024, Memorial Day, I believe. And this extends from southern Pennsylvania all the way into southern North Carolina. And this does include places like central and eastern Virginia, pretty much the entire state of Maryland, entire state of Delaware, and southern New Jersey. And then just look at our fire outlook for today. I mean, this is absolutely crazy. I mean, we have an extreme risk, and it would be absolutely crazy if we got an extreme risk for fire and a high risk for severe weather. I don't think that has happened, at least in a long time. That may have happened before, but I don't think that has happened in a while, and that'd be like cool to see, but it wouldn't be good for the people who are going to go through that. But as you can see here, we have that extreme risk, and there are no major cities in this, but there are some cities that are very close to this, like Alamogordo, New Mexico. Please tell me if I didn't pronounce that correctly. Roswell, New Mexico, and Carlsbad, New Mexico. And then this critical risk just contains pretty much all of New Mexico, pretty much just all of southern, eastern, and central New Mexico. and western Texas, western Oklahoma, southwestern Kansas, and southeastern Colorado, and a tiny bit of southeastern Arizona. And then in that elevated risk, it just extends into northwestern New Mexico and the Four Corners region, and into parts of eastern Colorado and western Kansas. And then that's pretty much all for that. So thank you guys for coming and watching this video. I really appreciate it. Please stay safe if you live in this moderate risk, or maybe even soon to be high risk. I am not sure yet if it will get upgraded, but I will go live today. At least I will try. I will probably go live around 5:30. So, yeah, stay safe, and thank you for watching this video.